Shalom, family. Good to see you all. Hope you're doing well. I tell you what, this was the fastest ceasefire I have ever seen in my life. It's over already because Israel bombed Lebanon and they are showing no signs of, they don't want to stop fighting. But we know they're a warring kind of people. So it's not shocking that they want to keep the war going. But after Donald Trump agreed, hours later, they start bombing again. And they have really bombed Lebanon real hard. That picture that you see on the avatar, that's the debris from a recent bombing. So it's a lot of rubble and debris all over the place. And because of Israel, the ceasefire is broken. Now, Iran had opened the Strait of Hormuz and they just closed it after the bombing. They closed everything down and said that the bombing violated the agreement of the ceasefire. And they're right. Didn't even last a full day, y'all. They didn't even last a full day. So whether Donald Trump like it or not, the bombing is on. He may not like it, but everything is off the table now because of Israel. So we're going to look at, and before we get to that, of course, I'm going to do my reminder, 12 Tribes on Earth, from now until the 11th of April is on sale, 30% off. So that includes the 4-ounce bottle, the 8-ounce bottle, the 4-ounce jar of whipped botana oil, and also the 8-ounce jar, and the bundle where you get a 4-ounce botana oil, a whipped 4-ounce, and a whipped 8-ounce. That is all 30% off. And you can get that discount on TikTok, Etsy, and Shopify. If it requires a promo code, make sure you use everything Botana 30. Type it in as one word. All right, y'all. Let's get to Iran. All right, please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Okay.
This is huge breaking news coming in. Iran is closing the Strait of Hormuz again. Iran says it is stopping any more ships from passing through the Strait of Hormuz until Israel stops attacking Lebanon. As ceasefire deal included that Israel must stop attacking Lebanon, but the Trump and Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has issued a statement saying he supports the U.S. decision to suspend attacks against Iran for 2 weeks, but the ceasefire does not include fighting against Hezbollah forces in Lebanon, so there is complete chaos right now. Moreover, Pakistan's Prime Minister says violations of the ceasefire have already been reported today. And Iran is saying attacking Lebanon was part of the deal, and we're not going to allow any more ships through the Strait of Hormuz until Israel stops attacking Lebanon. Meanwhile, reports suggest that shipping through the strait is still heavily restricted, with vessels requiring Iranian approval and many companies refusing to pass due to safety concerns. Thousands of ships and crews remain stuck as uncertainty continues. Right now, with conflicting signals from Iran and the United States, this situation remains extremely unstable and could change at any moment. Make sure to follow for latest updates.
Well, that was quick. Iran already shut the Strait of Hormuz because Israel refuses to stop bombing Lebanon, including Christian villages and towns during Easter. Tehran made it clear the strait stays closed until Israel stops hitting Christians in Lebanon. But here's the kicker. Pakistan helped broker a ceasefire that included Lebanon. Bibi Netanyahu flat out said nope and kept the carpet bombing going. This comes right after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth declared a big military defeat over Iran. Yet here we are, Iran reclosing the world's most critical choke point. I called this the second I saw Israel wasn't on the ceasefire agreement. Netanyahu is literally blowing up the deals. This has been the pattern since day one. In a week, we get ceasefire talks and short-lived agreements that collapsed under 24 hours. Then, when the weekend hit, total escalation, big strikes, while markets are closed, Trump crashing out on Truth Social. If they bombed midweek, markets crash. But weekend fireworks, stocks only pump when they reopen. This is starting to look a lot like coordinated market manipulation. Bottom line, if Israel doesn't stop attacking Lebanon, the war is back on full blast. And the weekend window just opened. What do you think? Coincidence or playbook? Leave your thoughts and comments below and follow for daily updates.
Breaking news, the Economic Times and the Fars news agency in Iran are reporting that Israel has violated the ceasefire agreement and ships at this point, tankers have been stopped traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. What? Yes, the Economic Times and the Fars news agency out of Iran are reporting that Israel has violated the terms for the ceasefire. They have attacked in some way, and that shipping has now been stopped through the Strait of Hormuz. It was just attempting to open again. Again, this is what's being claimed. This is what's being said. Do not have any more details than that. But if it's true, Israel, shame on you. Shame on you. You're the one who got us into this war. And by the way, what do y'all think about Israel and all the mess that they got the United States into and Bibi Netanyahu? Do y'all approve or disapprove of what Israel has done? Do you approve and disapprove of what they've done here in Iran and what they did in another place nearby? Because I can't say that word, but it starts with a G, that Za word. Do you all approve of that? But yeah, Israel apparently has violated the ceasefire is what's being claimed, what's being reported by the Fars news agency and the Economic Times of India, the largest financial newspaper in India. And if true, this is bad. This is not a good thing. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, and the burned out light bulbs. And I've had enough of Israel. Have you? I have. Time to cut their money off.
Looks like Trump's ceasefire deal is going to last less than 24 hours.
Okay. Nay, all day. You said, isn't Lebanon a separate country? What does it have to do with Iran? It was part of the deal because there are certain nations that Israel have been bombing continuously over probably decades now. And Lebanon was included in the ceasefire that Donald Trump agreed to. So it was Lebanon, Beirut, Gaza, all of that was included in Iran's ceasefire. That's why you're hearing about Lebanon. So the fact that Iran put that in there and Israel already went on a huge bombing, and I'm talking huge, y'all, bombing campaign just hours ago against Lebanon, it has now violated the ceasefire agreement. So that's why they opened up the Straits of Hormuz when they heard about the bombing that Israel did on Lebanon. They closed everything back up. So the Straits of Hormuz is closed. The ceasefire is violated. Iran don't have to honor anything now. They don't have to honor anything. They could look at Donald Trump and say, well, the agreement is off. And they would be within their right to do that. So that's why you're hearing about Lebanon. They were included in the ceasefire, which means not only does Israel have to stop bombing Iran, they have to stop bombing Beirut. They have to stop bombing Lebanon and also Gaza. That's all in there. All right. All right, let's go on.
Now we see that the Strait of Hormuz is literally closed again. It's because of a disagreement, because Israel is saying that they get to continue to attack Lebanon. The U.S. is backing them up in that effort. And Iran says, whoa, 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 that's not what the deal says. So back to square one we go.
Trump has a major problem on his hands if he wants this ceasefire with Iran to last. Israel has not stopped bombing. They are bombing Lebanon. They are saying they are not included in the ceasefire, nor is Hezbollah. Iran says they are included in it. Now they are each trading strikes back and forth. Iran is striking the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, destroying more desalination plants. Israel struck a funeral at a cemetery in Lebanon, killing at least 10 people at a funeral. Guys, this has to end. Trump has to do something to get Israel in check, or this ceasefire is not going to last through the day at this point. It is in very serious jeopardy. Iran, due to this, has now closed the Strait of Hormuz. No traffic is moving through. So very, very serious stuff happening here. Trump wants this to end, wants out of it. That is clear. Israel seems to want to keep it going. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Iran is reclosing the Strait of Hormuz. This is after Benjamin Netanyahu said that Lebanon was not a party to the ceasefire. Pakistan's prime minister said that Lebanon was absolutely a party. This was after Pete Hegseth has claimed a complete military defeat of Iran, as Iran is reclosing the Strait of Hormuz due to a breach of ceasefire. Benjamin Netanyahu is quite literally blowing up ceasefire negotiations. Expect things to escalate as we go into the weekend, and when oil markets close on Friday night, the window opens. You see, if you do a major attack during the week when the markets are open all over the world, then the markets will instantly drop. But if you do an attack during the weekend and the attack is successful, the markets will only go up when they reopen. People in leadership bet on successful missions. If Israel does not stop attacking Lebanon now, then the war is back on. This is all after Donald Trump's administration is taking some kind of victory lap. And Hegseth today said that the United States was fully prepared to attack civilian infrastructure. The threat in it itself is a war crime. According to Donald Trump's own language, if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened, then they're going to resume attacks. So I'm going to be following this very closely as things develop. So drop a follow on TikTok, subscribe on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, support my work, Venmo's in bio. I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right, gang. Breaking news. This just in. Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz yet again and has threatened to withdraw from the ceasefire if Israel keeps striking Lebanon. So I already did a video today earlier saying that Israel has hit Lebanon over 100 times within 10 minutes. And this was one of their largest strikes on Lebanon to date. Multiple massacres, injured, people unalived. And thankfully, Iran has said enough. Now, of course, the Trump administration is saying, hey, you know, not attacking the Lebanese or not attacking Hezbollah was never a part of the original agreement. Iran's like, bullshit. Yes, it was. So here we go. Not even 24 hours. Not even. And quite frankly, we all knew that Israel had no intentions on stopping the aggressions towards Lebanon or Gaza. They are on a genocidal war path, and they need to be stopped. They are not only a threat to their own community, to their own people, but they are a threat to the world. And my question is, why is Iran the only country that's standing up? Why is Iran the only one willing to take it there against a psychotic and genocidal country? I understand Russia's dealing with that whole Ukraine situation and China's busy, you know, taking over AI and about to rule the world. But enough is enough. Like, more people got to jump in this. And no, I'm not advocating for World War III, but at a certain point, you just got to say, stop what you're doing or we will f you up. And that's just what it is. So if Israel is incapable of stopping their unnecessary, unlawful, and psychotic aggression against Palestinians and against Lebanese, they need to be stopped. And if you don't care about human lives, you don't care about babies getting burnt and bombed, all right, whatever, cool, that's you. But just so you know, all this loss of life, all this darkness is going to come with a heavy price tag. And people will pay for this one way or another. Whether that's at the pump or at the dump, somebody going to end up slumped. Time for the world to act. No more games.
The so-called ceasefire has already been violated. This is quickly devolving into chaos before our eyes as attacks continue. An oil refinery on Iran's Lavon Island.
Y'all, at the end of the day, this is the fault of King Saul. Go back in the Bible and go over that story of King Saul. The Most High told him to get rid of everyone, men, women, children, their livestock, everything, take everything out. He defied the Most High and let these people live. This is who we're dealing with today. This is exactly who we're dealing with today. So if you think one person cannot make a huge impact, that story proves yes. One king's decision thought he could overrule what the Most High told him to do. And now look at what we're dealing with today. I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying. Let's go on.
Was attacked this morning. Iran then retaliated, striking Saudi Arabia's east-west oil pipeline in a drone attack. Kuwait says water desalination and power plants were struck by Iran earlier today. We're also hearing that the UAE and Bahrain were attacked. Meanwhile, Israel continues to pound Lebanon with airstrikes. The scenes out of Lebanon look apocalyptic right now. This is one of the largest coordinated strikes by the IDF against Lebanon to date. Reports are already coming in that at least 300 people were killed in the attacks, with many more injured. Iranian state media outlet Fars posted on Telegram that while 2 tankers transited the Strait of Hormuz this morning, they will block the strait as long as Israel attacks Lebanon. Iran says that Lebanon was part of the ceasefire agreement. Shehbaz Sharif, the PM of Pakistan and the independent mediator of this ceasefire, says that Lebanon is part of the ceasefire. But now the U.S. and Israel are contradicting him, saying that it is not. Sharif posted this morning, quote, "Violations of ceasefire have been reported at few places across the conflict zone, which undermine the spirit of peace process. I earnestly and sincerely urge all parties to exercise restraint and respect the ceasefire for 2 weeks as agreed upon so that diplomacy can take a lead role towards peaceful settlement of the conflict." Meanwhile, people are absolutely stunned by Trump's deal with Iran, even many supporters of Trump's war, as it appears he folded to every one of Iran's demands, including allowing them to charge ships to pass through the strait. This situation is extremely precarious at the moment. We'll keep following it, so spread the word and listen to the Midas Touch podcast for more updates.
Hey everybody, it's just past 12 noon on the east coast of Florida. We already have some very important and urgent breaking news updates that is just coming out right now. So look at the reporting I already did, made 3 posts about it, but now that's already old news about this ceasefire. And the new news is that Iran has already halted now the oil tankers trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz because they are demanding that Israel cease their attacks on Lebanon. So if you go back and look at the 3 parts that I just posted a little bit ago, one of them, I talked quite a bit about Israel's response to what Trump and allegedly Iran had allegedly agreed to. They said that they supported it, but that they were going to continue their attacks in Lebanon because they want to wipe out Hezbollah. And I mentioned how this was very similar to their actions in Palestine, Gaza there, about saying they were going to wipe out Hamas. So Lebanon then put out a statement today saying they want some kind of agreement like we got with Iran, because they're saying these attacks by Israel are, against international law. They're hurting their civilians, innocent people there, and that it is, violating humanitarian rights and the whole thing. Well, I guess that's now a really big deal, because Iran's semi-official Fars news agency said that 2 tankers were allowed to pass through the strait this morning. However, then they reported later that simultaneous with Israel's attacks on Lebanon, which I've been reporting about, the passage of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz has been stopped. And Iran then threatened to destroy oil tankers if they tried to travel through the strait without permission, as the regime has now imposed a toll of up to $2 million per vessel. So much winning, Trump and Hegseth. Remember, everybody was going through that Strait of Hormuz just fine. They weren't having to pay anything. And that was on the 27th of February. And allegedly, all of Iran's nuclear capabilities had been in whatever happened in June, where they said it was super successful, totally obliterated. But even before that, we had an agreement with Iran that worked. It was verifiable, and it was working under the Obama agreement that Trump got rid of. But anywho, so here we are now because of Trump deciding, even though, as I posted in the 4-part post yesterday, going over this fantastic New York Times article, deep dive into how we got here. Because basically Netanyahu and his head of the Mossad came to the White House and gave Trump a big hard sell, and he bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And on the 27th of February, before this all happened, oil prices were real low. Now they've skyrocketed. We had sanctions against Iran on oil. Trump had to lift those sanctions. They're getting to get the money, but they're getting it at the highest prices ever for that oil. And now they're saying in this win that Trump and Hegseth are claiming total victory for something they started that they didn't have to, and we still don't see any reason that this happened, and that we spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars and lost American lives and injured Americans and others. And Trump claimed in this little agreement that, someone asked about would there be a toll, and he said, it might be a joint venture. It could be a beautiful thing. It doesn't seem beautiful. So Saudi Arabia's east-west oil pipeline, which has become vital in transporting crude from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea for export, came under drone attack at 1 p.m. local time there. And this is what is reporting in the Financial Times. So now, apparently, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham demanded that J.D. Vance appear before Congress to explain the terms of the agreement after J.D. Vance, who we know opposed the war, and again, I talk about this in that 4-part series, allegedly, he spearheaded these new 11th hour peace talks last night before the 8 p.m. deadline. Lindsey Graham is posting on X, quote, "The supposed negotiating document, in my view, has some troubling aspects, but time will tell. I look forward to the architects of this proposal, the vice president and others, coming forward to Congress and explaining how a negotiated deal meets our national security objectives in Iran." I don't agree with Lindsey Graham on anything. However, in this case, it is true. What Trump and what Hegseth and those, and in the Pentagon briefing that I watched this morning, what they're trying to claim just doesn't appear to be factual at all. Republican Representative Don Bacon of Nebraska said that Trump has secured, quote, significant victories. However, he expressed extreme skepticism over these peace talks and whether the president's claims of, quote, total victory are accurate. He said, quote, the government is still in place there, and we should be negotiating from a position of strength, not a position that's good for them. Because as we've been reporting, this deal, whatever it is, seemed to be very good for Iran. So what have they gained? Yes, they had a lot of loss of life, equipment, and so on. But it's a huge country. They are able to keep producing, apparently, these weapons at very low cost. They also have 92 billion people there. And now, to the world, they look like the underdog that somehow stood up to the biggest country with the biggest military, as Hegseth keeps reminding everyone. And they didn't get back down in just hours like what happened in Venezuela and like what Trump thought was going to happen, because that's what Netanyahu and the head of the Mossad told him. We suffered a lot of loss, equipment, people, our allies in that region, the US bases, the Arab states. We don't look more powerful. We look desperate. and nobody is helping us. Now, this representative continued, he said, Iran will work with Russia and China as soon as they can start rebuilding their military, and they will be a threat 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road. So as long as this government is in place, total victory has not been earned. Laura Loomer, who was one of the top people telling Trump to do this, she's pro-Israel, she predicted that the ceasefire will fail, as it appears to have. So even she claimed the negotiation is a negative for our country. We really didn't get anything out of it, and the terrorists in Iran are celebrating. I don't know why people are acting like this is a win. And then Mark Levin, who was another big whisperer in Trump's ear and a pro-Israel commentator with close ties to Trump, said that while he trusts Trump's instincts, the Iranians could not be trusted. And he said, quote, the enemy is still the enemy and they are still surviving. So their piece of this big breaking news is that Iran has now publicly released what they claim is the 10-point framework for this, quote, peace deal and 2-week ceasefire. It says that the U.S. should accept their continued control over the strait and recognize their right to have uranium enrichment, lift all sanctions, pay compensation, and withdraw all troops from the region. That would be a win and a victory for us? So last night, Taco Tuesday Trump described the points of the peace proposal as a, quote, workable basis on which to negotiate. But a White House official today said the points do not match what Trump was referring to in his Truth Social point. So again, a White House official, allegedly entertainment purposes, but they are saying today that what Iran is putting out as what they agreed to in this deal do not match what Trump appears to be referring to on his Truth Social post. Trump called the deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz a, quote, joint venture. Remember, he said a beautiful thing, and also promised that the U.S. was working with Iran to dismantle their uranium enrichment capacity. So Iran's 10-point peace plan that they think that we've agreed to is, quote, commitment to non-aggression, Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, acceptance of Iran's uranium enrichment, lifting of all primary sanctions, lifting of all secondary sanctions, termination of all UN Security Council resolutions, termination of all Board of Governors resolutions, paying compensation to Iran, withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region, and cessation of all war on all fronts, including Lebanon. So again, that's where this probably broke down, and they closed the Strait of Hormuz because they absolutely are fighting in Lebanon. In the meantime, this supposed, totally decimated country is outlining a scheme to rake in millions of dollars from the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz that was already open before Trump did this. The exact terms remain unsettled, but it is looking like the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps would have tolls of at least $1 per barrel payable in Chinese cryptocurrency. Now people are calling it the Tehran toll booth. Some analysts are saying Iran could net as much as $500 billion over 5 years. All right, folks, we'll get back to you later. This is ever-changing. Talk to you soon.
We have some breaking news right now. There is complete chaos over the alleged ceasefire between the United States and Iran. Iran is now saying it will stop ships from passing through the Strait of Hormuz, according to state TV, until Israel stops attacking Lebanon. But Donald Trump is saying that Lebanon and Hezbollah were never part of the ceasefire deal. He told PBS that this is a, quote, separate skirmish. So right now, there is clear confusion over what this ceasefire even includes. At the same time, Pakistan's prime minister is reporting that there have already been multiple violations of the ceasefire, and Iran is doubling down, saying attacks on Lebanon were absolutely part of the agreement, and until those stop, they will block traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. This is a major issue, because that strait handles a huge portion of the world's oil supply. You would think this is something they would have fully agreed on before announcing a ceasefire, but clearly that's not the case. Things are moving fast. Spread the word. Follow along for all the latest updates.
You know what, y'all? The bottom line is Donald Trump agreed to the terms of Iran. And you can't now say, well, they didn't mention it. You know what? That's why you need to fully understand the terms of the ceasefire before you agree. Donald Trump act like you would think somebody in junior high school is running the country. Usually you thoroughly go over that. You should have members of your cabinet, like your intelligence, and everybody at that meeting with you. So everybody's eyes can be on that paper, whatever you're looking at on the computer screen, paper, whatever. Everybody's eyes on it. And people can pick up things that you might not pick up on. So who knows who was at that meeting? But Donald Trump is acting like, oh, I didn't see that on. They said, no, that was part of it. That was part of it. So how do you make an agreement and not know and fully understand the terms of the agreement? This is just further embarrassment on the U.S. For real. This is further embarrassment. So I guess the president can't read now. And the people in his cabinet can't read. So anyway, y'all, this is one big mess. He was supposed to bomb Iran out of existence just at 8 p.m. yesterday. And here we are, not even a full 24 hours, and they can't even uphold their end of the bargain. Says a lot about who these folks are. It really does. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And I will see you on my next live. Shalom, family.